Students these days are out of their prestige whoring minds. Okay, so I made this video in response to a lot of the extracurriculars I've seen on stuff like Reddit and whatnot. But then I had the bright idea to help out a little bit, right? Since private school admission season is coming up, I try to shed some light on the reality of extracurriculars, especially in this modern college admissions climate. Oh, and just for like a little bit of background, right? I'm a college consultant who helps students get into top schools like MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Cornell, Duke, UPenn, UC Berkeley, and like all of that kind of stuff, right? And now, here's the thing, okay? I've been itching to talk about this crap for like forever because as someone who's been in the consulting industry for like 7 years now, I've noticed this like insidious pattern, right? Of people having the most asinine, ridiculously insane extracurriculars. Yet, if you actually took the time to think about it for like a second, right, you'd realize it doesn't take a genius to realize that they're really just not legit, like one bit, right? In fact, they're like actually lying through their teeth. Like, it's virtually impossible to work an internship, serve as varsity captain, and create three startups while maintaining a 4.0 unless you're like breaking every mathematical law possible just to have enough time to do everything. Like unless you somehow defy the concept of time, like it's like impossible, right? like like Jesus Christ, you guys, it's actually more insidious than this, right? Like the whole lying in the college apps crisis. It's like, okay, let's start with this, all right? Like people are going to stretch the truth in college apps, right? But here's going to be something weird that I noticed, okay? It seldom starts off as like a crazy extreme lie, right? Usually it's like a flicker of a lie, right? Like, oh, I kind of did a few extra service hours that was like, like something that I can record, right? Like actually 150 hours counting the little extraneous minutes packing stuff up and all, right? This sounds sort of reasonable at first, right? After all, right? We don't really trick ourselves with falsehoods, right? They're kind of like half truths. But like, oh, I guess it kind of counts for leadership roles too, right? It usually becomes stuff like that, right? I technically count as president of robotics club, and nobody would like really check for that, right? Like, oh, would you look at that, right? I also worked a food stall for that one ASB event, right? That deserves a title, right? Like, like chairman of the food stall. Like, you see where this is going, right? Like, it typically expands into like absurd levels. And, like next thing you know, you become no better than the startup grifters, just like lying through their freaking teeth, right? Now, you'd think that this is kind of like a massive jump, right? Um, like, how does somebody go from like a few white lies here and there to like totally fabricating everything, right? Like, what the F is actually going on in the minds of these illogical, irrational, morally bankrupt freaking goobers, right? Like, so, okay, you want to know my theory for it? All right, uh, here, all right. Like, so just gather around the metaphorical campfire, okay? Because like what I found is that this shameless behavior isn't actually due to being stupid, okay? It's gonna be kind of crazy, okay? I actually think it's a much more deeply rooted pathology than that, all right? By the way, like spoiler alert, just to speed it up a bit, it's anxiety, all right? And I'm gonna start to get a little bit serious here, okay? So like, I'm gonna stop memeing for a little bit. To be like really super specific here, it's the anxiety of getting rejected from college, but it's not just that, right? It's the inability to accept that rejection from one's dream school has a non-zero chance. This gives people like this sense that they don't have control. And by the way, the key word here is going to be control. Okay, just kind of keep that in mind. When the possibility that we can't in fact get what we want becomes instantiated, like we become paralyzed, right? So we try to regain that sense of control, right? And how would we do that, right? How is that going to happen? Well, just look at what happens with most of the other people who are prestige whoring, right? It's like it's exactly in the pretty little lies that come in, right? Like it's every time you exaggerate your service hours or your leadership experiences, right? You get that like little kick of serotonin, that sliver of hope, right? And that hope fends off the sense of dread you get every time you realize getting rejected from your dream school is a reality, right? You end up building this like ego that's so desperate for control desperate to guarantee results. Keep that in mind, right? Guarantee results. Despite the fact that no matter how much you stretch your extracurriculars, the sense of anxiety and dread is always going to come back, right? No matter how much you chase that false sense of control, by stretching the truth further, true reassurance is a result you'll never reach, right? Because life has no guarantees. This actually, you know, oh my God, dear God, it's going to be a positive feedback loop, all right? Because you end up getting addicted, right, to this like temporary relief that comes with the white lies, right? You feel just reassured enough, just enough before you need to stretch your application again and again and again, right? Only for the sense of anxiety and dread that is college rejection to come tumbling down at you like an asteroid, right? And the only thing that can really save you from that dread, the dread of, not getting a guaranteed result or a guaranteed acceptance into your top school is like, you know, relying on your secret technique again, right? The lies. And you know what's funny actually? Well, okay, like, it's not really funny, but like I'm trying to be positive here, right? When you think about it, it's not like a sustainable solution, right? Like at some point, it's like, bro, you have to not lie and stretch the truth about your application so much because at some point, right? Like you're gonna get caught, right? Like your readers aren't that dumb, man, right? Like, and okay, right? Like I'm probably bullying students too hard, honestly, right? Like I get it, right? Like I get why people are gonna want to lie, right? So I'm gonna try to make like a proposition for everybody here, like something that hopefully would leave at least a little bit of solid value, whether you're like a lying goober or like a regular student, right? So like roughly speaking, like I implore that you try to implement this, okay? Um I really highly recommend that you let go of the sense of control. Okay. So, look, okay, like I get some people are gifted. Okay. Some people have what it takes to do Math Olympiad and stuff like that, right? Like, roughly speaking, it's not fair, right? But, like, I insist that you learn to accept the result whatsoever it may be. Okay, your brain can probably accept the result as reality, right? Like from a logical perspective, right? It understands from a logical perspective that getting rejected from your top school or, like all of your schools is a logical reality, right? Like this is something that it knows to be true, but not the heart, right? The heart can't handle the fact that college acceptance is no guarantee. It can't accept that all your work might go to waste. But no matter how much you stretch the truth or pepper your application with insane, impossible extracurriculars, hoping the admissions officers won't notice the truth, it'll never really ease the anxiety and overthinking that's happening in your mind, right? Inner peace needs to come from within, right? And oh God, you don't want to know what's actually super funny about this mentality, right? It's actually one of the most important skills I teach my students to help them write their college essays, right? Not only college essays, but like just everything in general, right? Like, like, dude, you have no idea, man, right? Before you can write, you need to know how to think, right? But you can't think about what to write about when your anxiety and stress, your sense of control is like getting in the way of you writing anything, right? Like, like okay. I realize this evolved from me like bullying shameless behavior to like giving a bit of a pep talk, right? But like this is literally the best strategy to actually help yourself create a better application in general, right? It all starts with letting go of that illusion of control, right? The illusion of believing that you can actually force your admissions officers into believing what you have to say or essentially accepting you for good, right? There's no guarantees in that, right? This isn't going to be easy, by the way, right? Like, I recognize that just let go of outcomes, right? In that, like, sort of weird, like, stoic sort of way, right? Isn't really something that, like, happens in, like, a fortnight, right? Like, but if you really try God, like, if you really try before the deadlines, right? to suspend the illusion of control, you'll actually have not only an easier time filling out the application, but a better looking application overall, right? It's going to look a lot more natural and organic too, right? And not like just some goober who is shamelessly lying throughout it, right? Like, trust me on that, right? So, okay, like that's about it for this video. Okay, I might actually make a guide regarding to how to actually overcome the stress and anxiety that comes with college admissions, because that stuff is like gonna take forever and a half to discuss, right? So there's no time just to talk about it in this video alone, right? I think I originally intended this to be like just me clowning on people lying on their apps, but like, this actually brought up a couple good ideas for regarding stress and anxiety in college apps. So yeah, right. Remember, if you guys actually have any questions regarding college admissions, or really just any element of like college admissions consulting or essay help in general, like feel free to reach out, man. My email's in the description box below. Like I'll try to respond as soon as I can. Okay. Until then, thanks so much, you guys. I'll see y'all in the next one. You freaking goobers.